Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Google Pixel 7 and compare it against the Google Pixel 4a and see which specific phone you should go and pick up and or if you should go and upgrade from the 4a to the Pixel 7. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. Now, what's very interesting is the Pixel 4a, when it first came out, it was actually a pretty popular phone. It was the first time I would say I liked the Pixel 3a, but the 4a brought a massive redesign in the whole entire Pixel lineup. I mean, right before this, the Pixel 4 didn't even have a whole punch display. So with the 4a, for it being like that $350 phone, it wasn't supposed to be competing with like the iPhones of that time or like the Pixel or like maybe not even the Pixel 4, but it was supposed to be a budget-tier phone that was supposed to be more modern than I guess what Google was making before. Now on the front of the Pixel 4a, we have a 5.81-inch OLED display. It's a 1080p panel, and it is a okay panel for how cheap this phone is. I'll say it's actually a really good panel for how cheap this phone is. It is 60 hertz. It doesn't really feel like 60 hertz too often. It feels a little bit slower than that, but it is still a pretty decent panel. It's a hole punch display. And when I look at something like maybe even like a Pixel 5, it reminds me a lot of it. And honestly, the bezel isn't even that big of a deal for me personally either. So with the Pixel 7, you are getting a much bigger display. This one is a 6.3-inch AMOLED display, and it is a way better panel. Like this thing, it gets way brighter in my opinion. It's also a 90 hertz panel, and there's an illusion of when you have a phone that's better built, it just makes it feel so much more premium. So you are getting a way better phone on the Pixel 7. But when you compare them side by side, like it's still very interesting to see that even though the Pixel 7 isn't a super expensive phone, $599 compared to $349 back in 2020, it is actually a pretty interesting difference in my opinion. Now for the rest of the body, you can kind of get an idea of how both these phones kind of share a lot of similarities, to be honest. Now, personally for me, I think the Pixel 7 is way more premium. The Pixel 4a was pretty much built out of plastic. Now, it doesn't feel super bad. It kind of feels a lot like the Pixel 5, to be honest. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like horrible when you consider the price tag. Now, if this phone was like a $600 phone, it'd be completely different. But the Pixel 7, it is miles ahead. It makes it feel so much more premium. It's not even funny. And that is something I really do like about the Pixel 7. It brings kind of the best of both worlds of the most premium phones and the cheapest phones, and it kind of combines them. Now, they both have SIM card trays right here, which is really cool. Both of them have USB Type-C ports right there, as well as a speaker grill at the bottom, so that is really cool. And on the back, we are getting a very interesting type of layout. Also, the headphone jack is on top of the Pixel 4a. The Pixel 7 does not have a headphone jack, so keep that in mind. Now, we are getting a single camera setup on the Pixel 4a. It's totally fine. You know, this phone was pretty much 2 years old at this point, so it's really not that big of a deal. Now, on the Pixel 7, we're getting a dual camera setup. So we're getting a wide and an ultra-wide camera. And that is something I love. I love having dual or triple camera setups. So at least as long as you have a dual camera setup, you're good. Or even if you have a single camera that's really, really good, then you should be fine. Now on the Pixel 4a, like I said, you do get this fingerprint sensor on the back. It's a plastic back. Like it doesn't feel super cheap. And I love how the power button is a different color. But you know, the Pixel 7 is far more premium feeling. You're getting wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, IP certification. I mean, you're getting it all on the Pixel 7. So that is something I really do like about this phone. But the Pixel 4a, again, for how cheap it is, I still think it holds up fairly well in this day and age. Now, another thing we have to talk about is pretty much the software. So you do have to keep in mind that with the Pixel 4a, it isn't really supposed to be like the most up-to-date phone of all time. But with the A series, they typically match, at least as far as I can tell, they match their counterparts' numbers. So with the Pixel 4, it's probably going to be lasting as long as that phone. So if I were to probably like estimate, I'm pretty sure this phone is probably going to be ending off sometime around Android 13. Maybe it'll get Android 14, I'm not too sure. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see what happens. But I do think as of right now, it's still in a pretty decent spot. You can still use this phone. It's perfectly fine, and it's still supported with software. And since so many people bought this phone, I'm sure there's going to be, and there already is, a huge modding community behind it already. So now that that's out of the way, the Pixel 7 is going to be definitely lasting longer. Let's go and do a speed comparison between them. The Pixel 4a has that Snapdragon 730G chipset inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM, where the Pixel 7 has that Google Tensor G2 chipset inside of it with 8 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. Hopping on all the apps in the background, as you can see, we are cleared out on all of them. So let's get into phone calls, 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same. Definitely smoother on the Pixel 7 though. Messages 3, 2, 1. Okay, very smooth on both, but still kind of glitching when you're hopping out of house on the Pixel 4a. Play Store 3, 2, 1. very similar. Don't really, I mean, you can just see right there which one is a smoother one. Even the Pixel 7 is, I mean, so much smoother. The Pixel 7 isn't like the smoothest phone ever, but I mean, you can just see this is one of my biggest complaints with the 4A, like I mentioned earlier. Even though it's a 60 hertz panel, it feels like it's just like 30 hertz to be honest. So that's kind of a disadvantage of the 4A. It's kind of the animation speed and everything. Camera 321, and I've had that day one since I bought that phone. Maybe it's a issue with this one. I don't know, but I've seen a few other people complain about it too. Let's go and take a photo. Now this one is on night mode, so it's going to take a little bit longer. If we go and open up this photo, I mean, it's kind of like instantaneous on the Pixel 7. Now, hopping out of the application, take a look at it again. Actually, that one was the best one yet. Facebook 321. Again, a little bit of delay on the 4A with that little pop-up. Snapchat 321. I don't know why we're getting all these pop-ups again. I've used this phone for so many years now. Dropbox, which I don't have. Snake versus Blocks 321. Okay, I think we're good to go here. And the Pixel 7 was definitely faster here. The Pixel 4a a little bit behind. Getting into some gameplay, there's already a little delay on there. But both of them look pretty good, not really like massive differences here. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get a stack, 3, 2, 1. I guess we're going to have to update our terms of whatever. And let's go and get into Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. Now hopefully there's no pop-ups, and it doesn't really look like there is, so I think we should be good to go. So do keep in mind this one is on downloading content. That's kind of what happens with some of these games. But I will still say, it's kind of surprising it didn't do a horrible job on the Pixel 4a. Definitely did better than I thought. So I think to kind of sum up this specific comparison, I think the Pixel 7 is clearly the faster one. You're going to be getting a more optimized chipset. It's going to be a way faster, device for sure. So that is something that I really do like about the Pixel, 4a. It's faster than you would think for a budget tier phone. So in terms of that kind of covers it up here. Now let's go and hit on the cameras. And within the camera sensor, this is probably also a massive difference. Now Google is known for their cameras, and I think they do a great job with their sensors. Now in this case, you can see we have dual camera setup on the Pixel 7, a wide and ultra wide camera. The Pixel 4a only has a single wide angle lens. It's a 12.2 megapixel wide angle lens on that. Now they both can do 4K on the back, but the Pixel 7 can do 4K at 60 on the front and the back, which is nice. The 4A can do 4K at 30 on the back and basically 1080p on the front. Now with the 4A, I think this camera, like I mentioned before so many times, it's definitely not a bad camera for the price tag. But nowadays it might be a little bit more of an interesting price tag because we do have phones like the Pixel 5a going down in the used market, as well as phones like the Pixel 6a that are still available. Now within this phone, you have portrait mode, you have night sight, you have the standard camera mode, video mode here. You have this other modes as well, which is pretty much the same thing on the Pixel 7, but we do have more modes on the Pixel 7. So it's not a bad camera by any means. It really wasn't like amazing when it first came out. I've talked about it heavily, when it first came out, and I compared it to a ton of other devices. And I will say this is a very, very decent camera for that price tag back in 2020. But nowadays, since a lot of other phones have become much cheaper in the used market, it might make a little bit more sense to purchase those ones. With the Pixel 7, I think this camera is pretty good. I mean, this is a really, really good camera. Is it amazing? I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's I don't think it's the best camera this year. I think I'll probably give that either to the S22 or the iPhone 14 Pro Max. But this is a very decent camera for that price tag at $599. You have 8x zoom, you have 0.7x zoom zooming out, so it's pretty good. You have portrait mode, you have motion mode, you have night sight here as well. And you have, your other, cinematic mode and your standard modes here too. So that's some other really cool stuff here as well. So I don't know, again, if there's like a specific way I would be like, oh, this camera is way better than, this other one this year. But between these two, this one is substantially better for sure. So to kind of sum up this video, I'm going to be completely honest, I think the Pixel 7 is a really big upgrade coming from the Pixel 4a. So if you're planning on buying something like a Pixel 4a, well, or if you're using a 4a, going up to the Pixel 7, you're going to be getting a really big upgrade for sure. It's not perfect though. I still think the Pixel 4a still has a little bit of a runway ahead of it with, its price tag being so cheap as well as availability. But I think the Pixel 7 is giving you better build quality, better battery life, pretty much better everything, better performance. But the 4a, I think was super impactful, and I do like this phone a lot for sure. I just think the 7 is the better one. So that kind of covers it. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.